Welcome to Life Recovery Chats. Today we're going to be looking at step 11 of the 12 steps, and then we'll go over some key points concerning it. Step 11 is that we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Let's take a look at some key points concerning that. The first key point is that praying only for His will is key. So often when we've prayed, we've asked God maybe for our own things. We go to Him in times of desperation. We go to Him in times of need, and sometimes He may have disappointed, sometimes He may have answered. But it's moving beyond that, where we're no longer going to Him just simply coming with our list of things that we want, but we're coming to Him seeking out His will, going after only His will. That's what the key point to this step is, and it may be a change compared to how many of us have prayed before. But that's what this step process is all about, is learning His will above our own. The next key point is that it is continuing to let go of the way we think it should be and accepting God's ways and desires. This can be very difficult for us, but this is something that we should have been learning throughout this whole step process, that our ways are not the ways that work well. We've lived in those ways before. We've lived by those ways before, and what we found is it led us into a pit of destruction and addiction. And as we've continued to embrace this 12-step process, we hit step 11, and by now we should already realize that our way doesn't work. And we should be continually seeking God's will and His ways, which are higher and better than ours. The next step here is that this is learning to walk in relationship beyond simple belief. This isn't just believing anymore. This is learning to walk in relationship with God. God desires relationship with each of us. It's why He created us. It's why there's this part in the human psyche. There's this deep depth in us that desires connection with other people, deep, fulfilling relationships. And that's what God desires for each of us. And so as we do this step 11 and we make this a regular part of our life, as we learn to commune with God on a regular basis, we learn to talk with Him, which is prayer, and we learn to meditate on Him, which is listening. The next key point we want to look at is that we start in the morning, first thing, to take time to thank God for the day and to seek His will for that day. Just as in the last step, we learned that at the end of the day, it's a good idea to take a personal inventory of how the day went and anything where we went off of His path for us and where to make it right. It's best for us also at the beginning of the day to start in the morning seeking God, thanking God for everything in our lives, understanding that He is the author of our life, that He gives breath to our lungs, and that every good and perfect gift is from Him. Every blessing is from Him. And then we ask that He would guide our steps that day, that His Spirit would convict us when we need conviction, when we begin to go down a path that's not His will, that we would be redirected to stay on that straight and narrow path that He has for us. I've already mentioned this, but the next key point is that prayer is speaking to God and meditation is listening to Him. So we need to learn that we can talk with God. We need to learn to get alone with Him and to talk with Him like we would talk to a therapist or a counselor. In the Bible, it actually says His Spirit is like a counselor to us, that His Spirit is able to minister to us in that kind of a way. And so we want to build that relationship with God where His Spirit is able to speak to us throughout the day in correcting us and leading us into His path. And we need to make sure we're intentional about taking times where we quiet ourselves and our minds in order to listen to Him, where we read the Bible, where we read spiritual material, and we set our minds on the things of God that He can speak to us through those things. Finally, I want to say that this step is focused on the present today. You need to begin to be a person who lives in that day-by-day moment, that you're not worried about the future, that you're not living in the past, in the regrets and what could have been and what should have been, but you come into a place where you're satisfied with the here and now. You're satisfied with the person that you're becoming. You see God working in your life, and you realize that he's here in the present, in the here and now. And as you do that, I trust that you will connect more closely with him, and you will learn what it is to walk in relationship with him. So that's an overview of step 11. And by now you should have been working through the rest of the steps. And so you should be in a pretty good and healthy place in your life. And this step just simply helps you. Again, this is one of those maintenance steps. And so this step helps you to remain in that communion with God so that he can direct you throughout the day, so that you're not falling into those old behaviors and patterns that initially led you into those addictions and those lifestyles that kept you in bondage, but where you're able to seek his will, walk in freedom, and walk in who God's created you to be. So God bless you today. I hope I'll see you in the last video in step 12 of the 12 steps. I hope you have a great day and that you continue to walk this journey of recovery. God bless you today.